Hello everybody, it's time for today's Spotify session and I want to talk to you today about this warehouse scenario. It's probably one that you've often heard many times before, often at barbecues, people complaining that no matter who they hire, they just don't seem to be able to do the work, they just constantly make mistakes. And so let me set the scene, let me tell you a story about this warehouse. Now this is taken from a number of different examples that I've pulled together to create a scenario that we can work with today. But it is based on fact because I have heard this story many, many times before. So we have a warehouse and this warehouse operates, it's a warehouse and it's a distribution service. So there is the man, let's call him Dave, and he runs this warehouse and distribution service. It's his business and he has a number of staff that help him do this. So they get stock in, so they have clients who get them to hold on to the stock and then to distribute to their customers. And this happens on a daily basis. It's really important that the orders go out, they go out on time and that they're correct. The problem is that what happens is that often the distributions from the warehouse to the original client's customers sometimes go definitely wrong, they go amiss. So things, there are problems with the orders. There are problems in that things don't get delivered. There are problems that items that are not, that the full order is not there, or sometimes they get delivered to the wrong place. So there's a number of things that could go wrong in that instance. And every time something goes wrong, there is double handling of that order. So then the customer will be unhappy because they haven't received what they thought they were going to receive, or it didn't turn up at all, or whatever. The client who has asked for the distributor, the warehouse guy, Dave, to get this out there is going to be unhappy because they're getting complaints from their clients saying, what's going on here? This is meant to be delivered today and it's not there. And so there's this cycle of everybody being incredibly stressed and orders going wrong, and a whole heap of double, triple handling of orders, because in the warehouse there are problems with getting the correct orders out, going to the right place at the right time in the right manner. So there are all of these mistakes. And so Dave is grumpy and difficult because he's constantly having to put out fires all day. All day he's got people complaining to him. His clients are complaining, the customers of the clients are complaining, the staff are complaining that they can't find this or that. They're having to chase things, they're having to chase their tail. And it's a really stressful environment, not just for Dave, but for the team and for everybody associated with it. And this happens on a fairly regular basis. Some days are better than other days. Probably when Dave's got newer staff who are trying to impress him in that moment, things go quite well, and then the wheels fall off and we go back to basics, which is everybody starts making mistakes, and then Dave says that they're lazy and they don't care and you can't get good staff these days, and young people, and all of those comments that come out when things go wrong. So that's what happens on a regular basis. It's a really stressful, difficult environment for everybody involved. The clients, the customers, the staff, and Dave. Everyone's unhappy. So that's what's going on. So what else is going on? Well, chances are that the staff that work for Dave, there's a number of reasons why things are going wrong and why their orders are going amiss, and why there are so many mistakes. And the first reason could be that there needs to be more training. That because it seems so straightforward, there's an expectation that anybody who comes on board is going to be able to pick it up really quickly. You just need to fill this order, take it to this place and deliver it. But clearly there's other things that need to happen here, that maybe some training needs to happen so that you can make sure you can read an order form correctly, that you have a system in place or a process so you can double check the order before you take it out. There could be a whole range of different things. So there probably needs to be an investment in training, because that could be a very significant problem that Dave's got, is that he doesn't train people adequately to do the job. The next thing that could be going wrong here is that the staff might not care, so they're disengaged. And if they're disengaged, then chances are that they might start well when they first start working for Dave, but after a period of time, they don't care anymore, and they don't really care that they make mistakes. And everyone's going to make mistakes anyway, and everyone's going to be unhappy anyway, so why do you bother? So they could be disengaged and just really not care very much. And then the third one, and this is a little bit more sinister, is that they don't like Dave very much. They think he yells too much, and they sometimes just really don't make an effort to the point where they are willfully choosing not to do it correctly. Now, I think that that's really rare. I don't think that happens very often, but it can happen. It can happen. If you treat people badly enough, that can happen. So don't treat people badly. But those are the reasons why this could be going amiss. It could be a systems problem and a lack of training. It could be that the staff are disengaged, or even worse still, they become saboteurs of the whole system because they just don't care. So it sounds really easy, but it's not straightforward. So often in a business like this, there are not regular team meetings or anything like that because you're too busy. You're too busy to stop and have a team meeting. You're too busy to do those things. So somebody walks in, they meet the other staff, they start, they get paid their wages, and everything goes on. And so there's no stopping and taking time. But the reality is that Dave's got a number of problems here. And the first is that his business is really not efficient, and it's probably costing him an absolute fortune. It's costing him a fortune in lost opportunity because the clients that he's got at the moment might not be recommending him or his services to anybody else because the work's not being done very well. So there's that. There's a cost to him because of low productivity, because people don't know what they're doing and they're not doing it very well. There's also the double, triple handling of orders, having to make multiple phone calls to correct mistakes, people driving backwards and forwards to and from the warehouse to collect items that they forgot in the first place, a whole range of different things going on. So there's lost that. Then there's the loss of money in having downtime because constantly having to churn staff. So when you lose a staff member, then you've got to take somebody else on. They need to be trained to some extent, even if it's just being mentored by another staff member. It takes them a bit of time to come up to speed. So there's a whole range of different things happening that are costing Dave and the business a lot of money. And then there are people on the road who are potentially not working as effectively as they could because they just know that whatever happens, it's going to go wrong, and so they'll be in trouble, and Dave will be cranky, and they're not happy. So all in all, you've got a lot of costs being absorbed by Dave because the whole business isn't set up and structured very well in the first place. So Dave's got a few problems. What Dave needs to do, and I know I keep saying this, but Dave needs to slow down to speed up. What Dave needs to do is to work with his staff, with the team that he's got, and work out processes and procedures. And he needs to ask them what works well, what doesn't work well. His staff are on the road a whole lot more than him. They'll see things and know things that he won't necessarily know about. And if he engages his staff and gets them involved in resolving the problems and helping him to resolve the problems, then they've got a bit of buy-in, and then they want to be part of that process and they want it to work. So I would slow down. I would take a day out of work, even half a day, and spend some time working on processes and procedures to make that work. The other thing that he might want to look at doing is creating a buddy system. So I do a lot of writing in the various works that I do. I write reports and I write decisions and I do a lot of writing. And I can tell you that many, many times I can't see my own mistakes because I can't see the forest for the trees. I know what I meant to write. I thought that that's what I wrote. And then it turns out, if I send it out, that I got it wrong because I've left out words or I've done something which demonstrates that I'm not on top of everything because I couldn't see the mistakes because in my brain I didn't make any mistakes because I don't think people deliberately make mistakes. So what often helps is if you get somebody to double check an order or double check your writing. So now, as a general rule, I don't send out most of my written work without getting somebody to correct it first, to just read it through and make sure that it reads correctly. And in this instance, a really quick and easy way to do this is to get people to pair up so that they check each other's orders before they go out. Now that might sound like it's slowing everything down, but if you're double, triple handling stock at the end of the day anyway, a buddy system and checking things before they go out is much more likely to get you better outcomes. So a buddy system where you're going to check each other's orders before they go out and before you go on the road. The other thing it does too is it just creates a little bit of friendship and community, and you're working together and you're checking each other's work and you're both in it together. It's a nice feeling. Buddies work really well. I've often used buddy systems to help people to get over difficult situations and to make sure that less mistakes are made. So that's really important too. So I'd have a buddy system. I'd be looking for people to do the right thing. So catch people doing the right thing and I'd be rewarding it. So the way I reward that is I'd call it out. Instead of focusing on when errors are made, I'd be spending energy and time on when things don't go wrong. I'd be saying at the end of the day, that was a great day, thank you so much. We got 80% of orders correct today. And I would be charting that, and I would be focusing on getting the right stuff happening because we focus on it and we put energy into it, because people then will go, beauty, I want to get more of that because it feels good. So when things are going right, how do you get more of it to go right? So I definitely focus on catching people doing the right thing. And as part of that, I might then build in a bonus system. Now it depends on your industry and it depends on where you're going, but in this industry, there must be benefit in having a really efficient and successful warehouse distribution house. It must be of benefit to Dave to get more orders right most of the time, because if he does that, then his clients will be happy and they'll recommend him to other people. And he wants his staff to be on board to grow the business, because if he can grow the business, then there's going to be benefits for them. So why wouldn't you put in place a bonus system which acknowledges and recognises the good work? So, and it could be a team one, like if we as a team achieve this outcome over a period of 3 months, then everyone's going to get a bonus of $200 or whatever. It doesn't have to be an individual basis, because I think competition can sometimes be quite destructive. But you could have a team bonus system that could be incredibly effective and start turning this around, because remember, this distribution system that he's operating, this business, is work that is not necessarily all that fun and entertaining. Apart from meeting people, which could or could not be a good experience, it's pretty hard work. It's lifting boxes, it's going and meeting a client, delivering something, they may or may not say thank you. So the work in itself is not going to be fun. So you've got to find ways to make the work more enjoyable and attractive, and that way people are more likely to stay. So there's a whole range of different things that Dave could do straight away, very quickly, to immediately start turning his business around. And the other thing that I would do is I would work really hard, if I were Dave, on developing very good relationships with his clients and letting them know that he's doing this. Because if they've been disappointed to date with some of the service because of the double handling and all of the telephone calls, if Dave then goes to his clients and says, look, I appreciate things have not been so great, and I've taken steps now to address that, and this is what we're going to do. He then is on the front foot, and if something goes wrong, he wants his client to tell him straight away so that he can fix that, because he doesn't want his client saying, no, I've had enough of this and I'm out. He wants his client to be able to also say, thank you very much to the staff for the great work that you do, because you are supporting my business. So I'd be doing drinks and I'd be doing, little gifts or something. I'd be going out of my way to work hard with my clients to let them know that I am doing everything in my power to ensure that this is going to be a really successful, dynamic warehouse distribution business, because we value you as a client, and we value your customers as well. And we recognise that we're playing a major role in the way in which you deliver your business. And then suddenly, if these people are involved in that process as well, and they get invited to the drinks, and they're part of the whole process, and they get to recognise that they are doing something which is not just about getting paid at the end of the day, but they're part of a whole process about getting products out there, and that they're truly valued not only by Dave but by Dave's clients, then suddenly the way in which they see the work that they're doing for Dave changes dramatically, because they feel valued and appreciated, and it's not just a wage at the end of the day. The reality is that people go to work to play. They don't go to work to earn money. Of course they do go to work to earn money. Money is part of what we all need in order to make the world go round. But the major motivation for people to get out of bed in the morning to go to work is to play, is to use their skills and to apply themselves, and to have a sense of satisfaction at the end of the day. And if every time you get out of the car and you come back to work and there's another problem you have to fix, then that's incredibly wearing and exhausting. And before you know it, you just go, I don't want to do this anymore, and you move on. So I think that Dave could turn this around really quickly, but Dave's got to change his mindset. Dave's got to take responsibility for the fact that, in fact, he is and always has been the person who has the capacity to change this. That it's not the staff, it's him, and it's him and the way in which he conducts his business. That's what's so important to us. Mistakes happen when we're rushing, when we are tired, when we're overwhelmed, when we don't know what we're doing, or just cause sometimes, because we get distracted. But as a general rule, people do not make mistakes on purpose. They do not go out of their way to stuff up your business or to create additional work for anybody. There is no value in making mistakes. I think that mistakes often equal shame, because as soon as you've had a mistake pointed out, apart from the fact that you go, oh God, I've done it again, so there's a sense of, you feel bad, but then if it's constantly happening and you're being yelled at or reminded or whatever, then that moment of feeling bad gets worse and worse and worse, and suddenly you're feeling high levels of shame. Now, I don't think that mistakes should equal shame. I think that mistakes lend themselves to learning. Why did that happen? Why did the mistake happen, and how can we prevent it? What do we learn? What do we know that's going wrong when those mistakes happen? And if mistakes are happening on a regular basis in a typical way, then that would suggest that there's something really significant but basic that people are not doing. So it would suggest that training is an issue, or that people's stress levels are really high and they're overwhelmed, and so they miss something. But I think training is usually the major purpose. I mean, when I look at mistakes, I go, what's missing here? Where is the training? Because this is just information. This is often just information that's being missed, that's not being covered off. So we need to think about mistakes being a really great opportunity for us to learn something. And the other thing is about mistakes is we want people to talk about it. We want people to say, oh my God, there's an error here. Let's fix it. What can we do about it? We don't want people to not tell you that there's a problem or there's a mistake, because then you can't do anything about it, or you've got to deal with something down the track, which is actually much worse than the original mistake. So you want your staff to feel safe, to be able to speak up. You want to know when a mistake's happened. You want to know straight away so that you can address the problem. And you don't want your staff to feel ashamed because they've made a mistake, because if they've made a mistake, it usually somehow reflects us as leaders missing something, missing the training that we're meant to provide, or not in some way identifying that we're actually putting people under huge amounts of stress. sometimes that stress might be personal. Sometimes people's stress levels can be heightened because of personal things that they're going through, like a divorce or tiredness because a baby cries all night or whatever. But often we as leaders need to have a relationship with our staff so that we can have that conversation and we can be aware that those things are going on for our staff members. We need to know that. So I think relationships with your team are crucial in these instances. So I think that Dave's got the potential for significant growth in his business if he were to stop and spend some time in turning that around and taking responsibility for the fact that he's had staff leaving hand over fist all the time because they don't feel like they've been properly trained and they don't feel supported and they don't feel valued and all of those things. So that is what I'm hoping that you will get out of this today, that just because something feels overwhelming and terrible doesn't mean that in the long run that this has to be a problem that should destroy a business. I think there's an opportunity here for Dave to turn this around big time. All right, well, that's it for me this week. I'll be back next week. I will send you the scenario very soon for what we're going to discuss next week. If you've got any questions that you would like to, you'd like me to workshop with you, then I'm happy to do that. We can definitely make it very generic so that I'm not throwing anyone under a bus or exposing any particular workplace issue that you would be embarrassed about. I don't want to do that. All right, well, look, thank you very much. I'll catch you next time. Bye.